Hello students, today we are going to start our theme 7, an imperial capital Vijayanagara. It is a part of our country which is situated in the southern part of our country, and this chapter is from 14th century to 16th century. Now this Vijayanagara, or the city of victory, was established in the 14th century by Harihara and Bukka. These were two brothers in 1336. The empire stretched from Krishna river in the north and to the extreme south of the peninsula. Hampi is the other name for Vijayanagara Empire. The name Hampi is derived from the local goddess Pampa Devi. The local people remember the old Vijayanagara Empire as Hampi. The remains of Vijayanagara Empire have been found at the modern Hampi in Karnataka. Oral traditions, inscriptions, monuments, and other records help the historians to construct the story of Vijayanagara. Otherwise, the temples, the scripts, manuscripts are kept in the temples were basically the sources to construct the history of Vijayanagara. The ruins at Hampi were brought to light in 1800 by an engineer and antiquarian named as Colonel Colin Mackenzie. He was born in 1754 and became an engineer, surveyor, and cartographer. In 1815, he was appointed as the first Surveyor General of India and remained in the post till his death in 1821. In order to understand India's past, to make governance of the colony easier, he surveyed many historic sites. He thought that the regional customs and traditions will benefit the English East India Company in its administration. As an employee of the East India Company, he prepared the first survey map of the site. He constructed his studies first based on the memories of the priest of the Virupakasha temple and the shrines of the Pampa Devi. Subsequently, from 1856, photographs began to record the monuments, which enabled scholars to study them. As early as 1836, epigraphists began collecting several dozen inscriptions found at this and other temples at Hampi. The information thus collected was corroborated with the accounts of the foreign travelers and other literary works. This is the temple about which we are talking about, Virupakasha temple. Now, according to the tradition and the evidences of epigraphic, two brothers, Harihara and Bukka, has established the Vijayanagara Empire in 1336. Guru Vidyaranayan inspired them to establish this empire. The empire included different people who spoke different languages and followed different religious traditions. The rulers with whom the Vijayanagara kings competed. On the northern frontiers, the Vijayanagara kings competed with contemporary rulers like sultans of the Deccan, the Gajapatis of Orissa, for control of the fertile river valley and the resources that were brought by overseas trade. Karnataka Samarjamu. It was the name used by the contemporaries to describe the Vijayanagara Empire. Trade on horse during the Vijayanagara rule. Cavalry was a very important part of warfare during this period. The import of horses from Arabia and Central Asia for the king. This trade was initially controlled by Arab traders. Local merchants who were involved in the horse trade were known as Kudrai Chettis or horse merchants. From 1498, other actors such as Portuguese entered the scene. You can see on a on a wall of a temple, this has been depicted that a person is dealing in horse trade. Now, markets in the Vijayanagara. Here, markets were known for their spices, textile, and precious stones. Trade was a status symbol for cities in the empire and boosted of a wealthy population that was in need of high-value exotic goods such as precious stones and jewelry. The revenue that came from trade was used for the development of the state. The first dynasty of the Vijayanagara Empire was the Sangama dynasty, founded by Harihara and Bukka. They ruled the empire till 1485. They were replaced by the Sulvas, the military commanders who remained in power till 1503. The Sulva dynasty was replaced by the Tuluva dynasty. Krishnadev Raya 1509 to 1529 belonged to the Tuluva dynasty. Krishnadevaraya's rule was characterized by full expansion and consolidation. He brought under his rule the land between the Tungabhadra and Krishna river called the Raichur Doab in the year 1512. Doab means two water. Ab means water. So, दो नदियों के बीच में is Doab. He defeated Pratap Rudra of Gajapati dynasty, the ruler of Orissa, in 1514 and the Sultan of Bijapur in 1520. His rule is credited with building of the temples and attractive gopurams to many important South Indian temples. For example, the gopuram of the temple at Tanjore. He also founded the suburban township near Vijayanagara called Nagalapuram, named after his mother. Here you can see the temple of Tanjore, how beautifully it was constructed by him. Good military leader, poet, patron of art, learning and literature, Ashtadiggajas, famous Alasani Telugu poet, author of Manu Charitha. He was also a writer, Amukta Maluda in Telugu, his famous work. After the death of Krishnadev Raya in 1529, his successor faced problem created by rebellious Nayakas or military chiefs. By 1542, the control of the empire came under another ruling lineage, the Araividu, which continued till the end of the 17th century. Now you can see the coins of the Araividu dynasty and the architectural excellence of the Araividu dynasty. The military ambitions of the rulers of Vijayanagara and the Deccan sultans resulted in shifting alignments. Eventually, it resulted in an alliance of the sultanates against Vijayanagara. In 1565, the Battle of Talikota started and the army was led by Ram Raya, the chief minister of the Vijayanagara. The army of Vijayanagara defeated the combined armies of Bijapur, Ahmednagar and Golconda. The victorious armies sacked the city of Vijayanagara. The city was abandoned within a few years. After the defeat, the Araividu dynasty shifted its focus to the east and ruled the Penukonna, later from Chandranagari near Tirupati. The sultans were the reason for the destruction of the city of Vijayanagara in the Battle of Talikota in 1565. But the relationship between the sultans and the rayas was not always hostile in spite of religious differences. For example, Krishnadev Raya supported some claimant to power in the sultan and took pride of the title established of the Yavana kingdom. Similarly, the sultans of Bijapur intervened in an attempt to resolve the succession dispute of the Vijayanagara following the death of Krishnadev Raya. According to the historians, the Vijayanagara kings were keen to ensure the stability of sultans and vice versa, but due to the adventurous policy of Ram Raya and his attempt to play off one sultan against another sultan, came together and defeated him decisively. In the Vijayanagara Empire, the Nayakas were military chiefs who exercised power and control forts and had armed supporters. These chiefs often moved from one place to another, and many a times were accompanied by peasants looking for fertile land in order to settle. The Nayakas spoke Telugu or Kannada. Many Nayakas were under the control of the kings of Vijayanagara but often rebelled and faced military actions by the kings. The Amra Nayaka's system was a major political innovation of the Vijayanagara Empire. Most probably, many features of the system were derived from the Ikta system of Delhi Sultanate. The Amara Nayakas, military commanders, they were given territories to govern by the Rayas. Their duty was to collect taxes and other duties from peasants, craftsmen, and traders in the area. They kept part of the revenue for personal use and for maintaining a stipulated contingent of horses and defense. Some of the revenue was also used for the maintenance of the temples and irrigation work. They sent tributes to the king annually and personally appeared in the royal court with gifts to express their loyalty. Kings asserted their control over them by transferring them from one place to another. In course of time, they established independent kingdoms. This was one of the causes of weakening and declining of the Vijayanagara Empire. Several travelers visited the city and wrote about it. Italian trader named Nicole de Conti, Persian ambassador Abdul Razak, and a merchant named Afnasil Nikitin from Russia, all of whom visited the city in 15th century. Durante Barbosa, Domingo Piaz, and Fernando Nunez from Portugal, who came in the 16th century. Vijayanagara was located in the natural basin formed by the river Tungabhadra, which flows in the northeasterly direction. Large granite hills formed a girdle around the city. A number of streams flowed from these rocky outcrops to the rivers. Embankments were built along these streams to create reservoirs at different sizes. Since Vijayanagara was one of the most arid zones of the peninsula, elaborated arrangements were made to store rainwater to be used in the city. Kamalapuram tank is the most important tank built in the early years of the 15th century. Water from this tank used not only for the irrigation of the fields but also to channel the royal Seine. You can see the distribution channels. The Hiriya Canal was one of the prominent water works. This canal drew water from the dam built across on the river Tungabhadra and irrigated the cultivated fields that separated the sacred center from the urban core. This canal was built by the kings of Sangma dynasty. The account of Abdul Razak about the walls of Vijayanagara Empire. Abdul Razak was an ambassador sent by the ruler of Persia to Calicut in the 15th century. He was greatly impressed by the fortification and mentioned above the 7 walls around the fort. He says that the fort were encircled not only the city but the agricultural land and forest. The outermost wall linked the hills surrounded the city. The masonry construction was slightly tapered. No mortar, or cement agent was employed anywhere in the construction. The stone blocks were wedged shape, which kept them in place. The inner portion of the walls was of the earth packed with rubble. Square or rectangular bastions projected outwards. The most important feature of the Vijayanagara fortification was the incorporation of the agricultural tracts because the rulers were well prepared to face the siege and its consequences. Abdul Razak noted that between the first, second and the third walls there are cultivated fields, gardens and houses. Why the agricultural lands were incorporated within the fortified area? During the medieval period, the major objection of the siege was to starve the defenders into submission. The siege could continue for months and sometimes even years. Rulers were ready to face it with proper arrangements by building their granaries within fortified areas. The rulers of Vijayanagara adopted a more expensive and elaborated method of protecting the agricultural belt itself by incorporating agricultural tract in the fort. Hello students, now we will start the second part of the chapter 7, an imperial capital Vijayanagara from the 14th and the 16th century. A second line of fortification went around the inner core of the urban complex. A third line surrounded the royal center, within which each set of major buildings was surrounded by its own hill walls. The fort was entered through well-guarded gates leading to the major roads. Gateways were with defined agricultural architectural features. The arc on the gateway leading into the fortified settlements, as well as the dome over the gate, is regarded as typical feature of the architecture introduced by the Turkish sultans. Archaeologists have studied roads within the city and those leading out from it. These have been identified by tracing paths through gateways and finding of pavements. Moving along the roads leading into the urban core, there is little archaeological evidences of the houses of ordinary people. Archaeologists have found fine Chinese porcelain in some areas of the urban core. They suggest that these areas may have been occupied by rich traders. Tombs and mosques located here have distinctive functions. The ordinary people of Vijayanagara Empire lived in ordinary houses. This is how the 16th century Portuguese traveller Barbosa described the houses of the ordinary people. Field surveys indicate that wells, rainwater tanks and temple tanks of the various small shrines scattered throughout the urban core might have served as source of water of the ordinary dwellers. The royal center was located in the southwestern part of the settlement. It included 60 temples. The patronage of temples was important for the rulers because they were trying to establish their authority through association with the divinities housed in the shrine. About 30 buildings have been identified as palaces. The differences between temples and secular buildings was that temples were constructed entirely of masonry whereas materials used in the secular buildings were perishable. Based on the form of the buildings as well as their functions, some of the structures have been assigned some names. The King's Palace is the largest of the enclosures but was not used as royal residence. It has two platforms, the Audience Hall and the Mahanami Dibba. The Audience Hall is a high platform with slots for wooden pillars at close and regular intervals. It has a staircase going up to the second floor which rested on these pillars. The Mahanami Dibba is a massive platform rising from a base of about 11,000 square feet to a height of 40 feet. There is evidences that it supported a wooden structure. The base of the platform is covered with relief carvings. Dances, wrestling match and processions of caparisons, that is horse, elephants and chariots and soldiers, as well as ritual presentations before the kings and his guests by the chief Naikas and subordinate kings marked the occasion. These ceremonies were imbibed with deep symbolic meaning. On the last day of the festival, the king inspects his army and the armies of the Naikas in the grand ceremony in an open field. On this occasion, the Naikas brought rich gifts for the kings as well as the stipulated tributes. One of the beautiful buildings in the royal center is the Lotus Mahal. According to Mackenzie, it may have been a council chamber, a place where the king met his advisors. One of the most spectacular buildings found in the royal center is the Hazara Rama temple. This was probably meant to be used only by the kings and his family. The hills of northern region shattered the monkey kingdom of Bali and Sugriv mentioned in the Ramayana. Other traditions suggested that Pampa Devi, the local mother goddess, did penance in these hills in order to marry Virupakasha, the guardian deity of the kingdom, also recognized as a form of Shiva. The Vijayanagara kings encouraged temple building as it conveyed a divine association between the deity and the king. The Vijayanagara kings claimed to rule on behalf of the god Virupakasha. All royal orders were signed Sri Virupakasha, usually in the Kannada script. Rulers also indicated close links with the god using the title Hindu Suratrana. This was a Sanskrit of the Arabic term Sultan, meaning king, so literally meant Hindu Sultan. The Vijayanagara kings made grand temples. Temples developed as centers of social and cultural activities. The kings visited to the temple were important occasions, and he was accompanied by Nayakas. During this period, certain new features were evident in the temple architecture. These included structures of enormous size that must have been built to mark the imperial authority. One of the best example in Raya's Gopurams or royal gateway that often dwarfed the towers on the central string. These Gopurams signaled the presence of the temple from a great distance. These towering gateways also reminded about the power of the king, who could command the resources, techniques and skills of that was required to construct them. Another distinctive features of the temple architecture was mandaps or pavilions and long pillared corridors, and that often ran around the shrine within the temple complex. One of the best example is the Virupakasha temple. The temple was built over centuries. Inscriptions suggested that this shrine date to the 9th-10th century. On the occasion of his coronation, Krishnadevaraya built the elaborated hall in front of the main shrine. The hall was adorned with delicately carved pillars. Eastern Gopuram was also built by him. The halls in the temple were used for a variety of purposes. In some places, images of the gods were placed to witness special programs of music and dance, drama, etc. Others were used to celebrate the marriages of the deities, and yet others were meant for the deities to swing in. On such occasions, some small images other than those kept in the central shrine were used. In the Vitthal temple, the principal deity was Vitthal, a form of Vishnu, generally worshipped in Maharashtra. The temple has several halls and a unique shrine designed as a chariot. A characteristic feature of the temple complex is the chariot street that extended from the temple Gopuram in the straight line. These streets were paved with stone slabs and lined with pillared pavilions where merchants set up their shops. This you can see the Vithala temple and the chariot on which was a characteristic feature of this temple. The first step was to divide the entire area into a set of 25 squares, each designed by a letter of alphabet. These are the steps involved in the mapping of the site at Hampi. Then each of the small squares was subdivided into a set of even smaller squares. Each of these smaller squares was further subdivided into yet smaller units. These detailed survey have been extremely painstaking and have recovered thousands of structures from tiny shrines and residences to elaborated temples.